One of the most powerful nonverbal tools is learning how to read the face. It gives you such an advantage when interacting with others. Luckily for us, the science behind facial expressions is incredibly advanced, and the face is a veritable map of human emotions, if you know how to read it. Our brains actually use the face to make incredibly quick and accurate snap judgments. In one study, researchers had participants look at pictures of CEOs while their brain activity was being monitored. Certain CEOs' faces caused people's amygdalas to light up. Specifically, there was activity in the area of the brain where fear is processed. Interestingly, the fear-producing faces were also the ones that participants guessed were the best leaders. The researchers were amazed to find out that their brains were actually right. The CEOs' faces that caused the most fear and were guessed to be the most powerful actually did make the most profits. Participants were able to accurately predict profits just by looking at someone's face. So how do we do this? We can understand the face by understanding microexpressions. A microexpression is a very brief, involuntary facial expression displayed when someone experiences an emotion. They often occur as fast as 1/15th to 1/25th of a second. Prolonged facial expressions can be a bit easier to fake, but it is extremely difficult to fake a microexpression. Dr. Paul Ekman, who discovered the microexpression, discovered over 10,000 facial expressions. Critically, he has confirmed 7 universal expressions with specific meanings, no matter the subject's age, sex, or culture. These universal expressions are disgust, anger, fear, sadness, happiness, surprise, and contempt. Dr. Ekman realized everyone from remote tribes in Papua New Guinea to Japanese businessmen to American teenagers make these 7 same facial expressions while experiencing corresponding emotions. He also found congenitally blind individuals, those blind since birth, also make the same expressions, even though they've never seen a face. Learning to read the 7 microexpressions is incredibly helpful in understanding the hidden emotions of the people around us. As I describe each of the 7 emotions, I highly encourage you to practice the expressions in the mirror so you can experience for yourself how they look and, more importantly, how they feel. You will find that if you make one of the universal facial expressions, you begin to feel that same emotion yourself. So first, we're going to cover what each facial expression looks like. Then we are going to explore where you might see them in real-life situations. Okay, let's go into each expression. The first microexpression I want to teach you is surprise. Surprise is the briefest of human emotions because it occurs immediately when the subject is shocked about something that is said or done. So here is what surprise looks like. Don't worry, I'm a complete weirdo and practice these microexpressions all the time in the mirror at home. It might take you a bit longer to get it exactly right. But physically, what happens with surprise is the brows are raised and curved. They should look like upside-down U's. The skin below the brow is stretched. There can be horizontal wrinkles across the forehead. The eyelids are opened with the white of the eye showing above and below. Typically, the jaw drops open and teeth are parted. The lips, jaw, and mouth stay pretty loose. So here it is again. So let's talk about some examples of where you might see surprise. You often see surprise when interacting with clients or customers. For example, if you're talking with a client and you give them the project schedule, they might flash a surprise microexpression, something like this.
We should have the website done in about 2 to 3 months. We can start you on a payment plan right now, and yeah, how does that sound?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So here that is again on mute. Watch her surprise microexpression. See those eyebrows kind of popped up? She even takes in a breath of air. And he misses it and is not able to address it.
Anytime you see surprise, you want to immediately pause and give more explanation. So in the project schedule example, the business owner should spot the surprise and then explain why the delivery process takes so long. This will help engage the client. Here's how it could go if you address the microexpression right away.
We should have your website done in about 2 to 3 months. How does that sound? It's not the timetable you were expecting?
No, I'm not sure.
All right, well, let's talk about a timetable that prefers you then.
Okay.
So again, anytime you see surprise, you want to go into explanation mode. That will help in the sales process And it builds rapport because you address an uncertainty right away. Disgust happens when someone feels repulsion or aversion. Disgust looks like this. It's the face you make when you smell something gross, or even say the word ew. So the upper lip is raised, the nose is wrinkled, the cheeks are raised, and usually lines show below the lower lid. Again, it looks like this. Ugh. Let's talk about some examples of where you might see disgust. You often see disgust when asking someone about their preferences. For example, when asking a client what they think about your project, they might flash disgust before they even say a word. This tells you right away that they dislike it. The funny thing is, people flash disgust all the time when they're trying to think of a polite way to say they dislike someone or something. For example, you might ask a colleague what they think about the new client, and they might go, they're okay. That's disgust. Here's another example.
So I wanted to show you the mock-ups for the new project.
Oh yeah, they're nice.
So if you watch my face, you can see as soon as I take a look at the mock-ups, I go into this disgust expression with my nose crinkled and my lip pulled up.
Anytime you see disgust, you want to immediately give the other person permission to express their dislike. So you can say, there's no right answer here. Please tell me what you really think. Or, I promise you won't hurt my feelings. I want what you want. When working with a client, like in the last example, you should let the client know that honesty serves everyone. Something like this.
So I wanted to show you the new mock-ups of the website.
Oh yeah, they're nice.
Remember, they're just mock-ups, so we can change anything you dislike.
Oh, okay, I think that the color's a little bright.
Sure, no problem at all.
In this way, the client or employee will feel really listened to and understood by you. Most importantly, this makes you a more efficient business person. Addressing concerns and emotions right away will speed up the back and forth of your projects because you will get to the heart of the matter faster than having to guess what they do and don't like. It's a real time saver, and clients love it. I spot and dispel disgust all the time. Fear is shown when someone feels terror or apprehension. If you want to see this in action, I recommend watching someone else watch a horror movie. You will see this expression of fear. So the brows are raised and drawn together, usually in a flat line. The upper eyelid is raised and the lower lid is tense. The upper eye has white showing, and the mouth is open and lips are slightly tensed or stretched and drawn back, as if to yell or suck in oxygen. So again, it looks like this. It's good I have no shame in looking ridiculous for you, right? Okay, let's talk about some examples of where you might see fear. You often see fear when interacting with a new client or interviewing. For example, when you're talking with a potential hire and ask them about their previous job history, they might briefly flash fear. This means you have stumbled upon a topic that makes them nervous. Something like this.
Resume looks good. I was going to contact your last boss. That sounds good?
Oh, sure.
So one more time, here it is slowed down. Watch her just briefly, you can see the whites of her eyes light up in that fear microexpression.
Anytime you see fear, you want to immediately pause and dig deeper. Either ask more follow-up questions or do some homework into their background to get to the bottom of the emotion to make sure they're not hiding anything. In a job interview, you would want to not only call a referral, but also ask for a second or third, just in case. By the way, surprise and fear can be confused as they are similar emotions. It's very important to know the difference between these two emotions. Think of the question, did you know that some of the petty cash went missing? A look of surprise on your employee's face would mean something much different than fear. Surprise would be an appropriate reaction to finding out about stealing. Fear might cause you to ask some additional questions. The easiest way to tell the difference between surprise and fear is by watching the eyebrows. Surprise has upside down U's, and fear usually has eyebrows in a flat line. So I'm surprised at that information, or I'm afraid of that information. Anger happens when someone feels rage or extreme irritation. It looks like this. The brows are lowered and drawn together, and vertical lines appear between the brows. The lower lid is tense, and the eyes are in a hard stare, or bulging. The lips can be pressed firmly together with the corners down or open and formed into a square shape, as if shouting, something like this. So let's talk about some examples of where you might see anger. When working with customers, you can see anger when a client feels threatened or defensive. I'm hyper aware to anger because a flash of angry microexpression is a warning sign and gives you enough time to disengage a potentially negative interaction. Here is a common example with pricing and how a pricing conversation can normally turn sour.
So for your project, the total fee would be $500.
500.
Yeah, it's pretty standard rate.
So here you can see as soon as he mentions the number, her eyebrows pull down into that angry micro-expression, and you can see very clearly the vertical lines in between her eyebrows that indicate the anger expression.
When you see anger, the best thing to do is show non-threatening body language and use calming, explanatory language. We're going to talk more in depth about this later, but I like to use the universal "I'm not a threat" gesture. It looks like this: palms out and open with the face pointed forward. This is the best position for literally showing your hand and non-verbally telling someone not to worry. You can do this while soothing and explaining. Here's how it would work.
So for your project, the total fee would be $500.
500.
Even though that's standard rate, it includes a website and a payment plan.
This time he spots the anger, he addresses it verbally, and goes into the non-threatening body gesture of his hands open and palms up.
You will often see once you have reassured them, they will take a deep breath and release a relief breath. This is great because it means you have dispelled the anger. Whether you're talking to a client or an investor, you have to get past anger to move forward with the business. So again, anytime you see anger, show you're not a threat and go into reassurance. Happiness is the expression of joy or contentedness. Here's what happiness looks like. The corners of the lips are drawn back and up into a smile. The mouth may or may not be parted with teeth exposed. And a crease runs from the outer nose to the outer lips. The cheeks are raised, and the lower lid may show wrinkles or be tense. Usually there are crow's feet wrinkles near the outside of the eyes. Now, happiness is a really interesting microexpression. First, it's important to know that happiness is the easiest emotion to fake. This is because a fake smile is easy to do. So the only true indicator of happiness is when you see the muscles activated on the outside corners of the eye, also called the crow's feet. Only 1 in 10 people can consciously activate those muscles when they're not actually happy. So you want to watch for those muscles to activate. The second interesting thing about happiness, it is the only emotion that is more interesting when you don't see it. For example, someone might tell you that they're happy for you with a fake smile. Have you ever seen anyone do this? "Oh yeah, I'm so happy for you." That fake smile will tell you how they really feel. Here's another example of where you might see or not see happiness. Let's say you're talking to a potential client or an investor and you ask them how they liked your pitch. Their fake smile can tell you a lot. Here's how it looks in action.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
So no questions?
Nope, I need a little time to think about it.
All right.
I purposely did this clip from the side so you can see that that smile doesn't even reach my eyes or my upper cheeks. These fake smiles happen all the time with clients, and being able to recognize them, you know why a client says no and then how to address it right away.
How often does it happen where a client, partner, or investor tells you they're happy to work with you and then you don't get a call? Spotting the fake happiness can clue you into this before it happens so you can address it and hopefully get the sale. Something like this.
So what do you think?
Yeah, it's okay.
So it looks like you're a bit concerned. Is there anything I should know about it?
Yeah, maybe a couple things we should go over.
Okay, let's go over it.
So this is just that same example, but now he addresses my fake smile so that I'm able to tell him what's actually going on for me, and then hopefully he'll get the sale.
Anytime you see a fake smile, you have the choice to address it or improve. You can also simply know someone's true dislike. Contempt is the expression of disdain, scorn, or hatred. It looks like this. This expression looks very similar to a smirk. It's a simple one-sided mouth raise. People often flash contempt when they're pretending to be happy. They feel it's like a half-hearted smile, but nothing could be further from the truth. Contempt is a dangerous one. Let's talk about some examples of where you might see contempt. You often see contempt when people are trying to cover up jealousy or strong dislike, something like this.
So what do you think of Marissa?
Oh yeah, she's great.
So watch that contempt microexpression one more time. You can see the muscles activated on that one side of her face. That's contempt or hatred.
Anytime you see contempt, you want to immediately pause and rethink working with the person. Once someone feels hatred or contempt, it's very hard to gain respect back. If you see contempt with a client, definitely work hard on building rapport to get back the positivity. We have a lot of rapport building tips later in the course, but again, when you see contempt, especially if it's aimed at you, proceed with caution. Sadness is the expression of sorrow or unhappiness. Here is what sadness looks like. The inner corners of the eyebrows are drawn up. The corners of the lips are drawn down into a frown. The jaw is drawn back. The lower lip typically pouts out. So here it is again. Interestingly, sadness is the hardest emotion to fake. It's extremely difficult to engage the lips into a frown or pull the corners of your eyebrows down without having genuine feeling of sadness. So when you see it, you almost always know it's real. Let's talk about some examples of where you might see sadness. Sadness is an interesting one to look out for in the business environment because it's a quite personal emotion. I find sadness is a good one to spot when trying to either cold read someone at a networking event or gauge a client's mood. It's helpful to recognize sadness because it can be an indicator to hold off or delay working on something. It can also be an opportunity for rapport. Here is a common example.
So how are you doing?
Oh, I'm okay.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get to work.
Okay.
Let's watch that again slowed down. So when he asks how I am, my face goes right into that micro expression sadness. There, my eyebrows pull down, and you can see the pain in my frown. Slowed down, it's much more obvious, but you can still see that when it's fast. And here he totally misses it and doesn't see that this probably wouldn't be the best time to work on a project.
In this situation, which happens all the time, if you were to pursue working on a project, you wouldn't be very effective because judging by the sadness expression, it might not be a good time to work on anything. So a better way would have been something like this.
So how are you doing?
Oh, I'm okay.
Oh, is everything all right?
Ugh, just a really stressful day.
All right, well, why don't we work on this project afterwards when you feel better?
That'd be great.
In this way, the other person feels connected to you and you avoid working on something while the other person is in a bad place. Anytime you see sadness, you need to decide if you're going to engage or give the person space. This will also really help with rapport and cold reading people. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you will find that if you make one of the universal facial expressions, you begin to feel that same emotion yourself. Emotions not only cause facial expressions can actually cause emotions. This is called the facial feedback hypothesis, and is very helpful when trying to figure out the meaning of someone's facial expression. For example, when I speak with someone and they make a facial expression I don't know, I will try to mimic it and see what emotions I begin to feel. This is a very simple way of literally feeling as your subject feels, and it's also great for rapport building. Speaking of building rapport, I think bonding is one of the best side effects of learning nonverbal behavior. Of course, being able to read and display nonverbal cues is extremely helpful for you to interpret and portray emotions. But it's also amazing for building connection. Think about it this way. To read microexpressions or body language, you have to give someone your full, undivided attention. This is the ultimate way to bond with someone because we're rarely listened to in that way. Your attention to them will make them feel heard, listened to, and connected with. And it's true, you are reading their nonverbal behavior to get to know them. In this way, reading nonverbal behavior is actually one of the most genuine ways to build relationships because you are trying to understand what they are feeling. And this is the ultimate flattery and connection builder. At work, your attention to people's nonverbal behavior will not only help you read them, it will also help them feel you care. It breeds more all-around loyalty and honesty. On dates, it helps your date see your interest and your potential as a mate. In relationships, it shows you care and are fully invested in them. So reading people's facial expressions will help you understand others and help you build connection.